Hey, 반갑습니다. Okay, today I'm going to try the new format out, but this time I'm going to kind of teeter it back and forth. A little bit of me as a talking head and a little bit of some local scenery, at least the stuff that I see in my day-to-day life. So let me know what you think. But I have three articles here that I've come across online, and they talk about elements of Korean society that would suggest that they're becoming more closed off to the outside world. More xenophobic is the common catchphrase that I hear a lot. Xenophobia is basically the fear of foreign cultures or the dislike of foreign cultures, or just the fear of their presence in their own country. Now, this first article is from February of 2014, which is a little bit old, still pretty recent, and it's from the Chosun Ilbo, and the title of it is Young Koreans Are More Xenophobic. Now, I'm not sure if it was written by a Korean. It didn't say in the article, but typically on the Chosun Ilbo, the articles are written by Koreans. And it talks about a survey that was conducted with 1,500 people. And 64% of those that were 20-something age group believe that multicultural families strengthen Korea's competitiveness. Well, that's a good thing, right? Well, apparently that's a drop from 75% on a similar survey that was conducted 2 years prior. The survey, for the most part, had similar results regardless of age, but you would expect the younger generation to be more open-minded than the other age groups. In this survey, they actually had the highest disapproval towards multicultural families. The second article talks about how international marriages recently dropped to a 12-year low in Korea. 26% of international marriages are Korean women. 64% are men. I'm not sure where that last 10% went, but those are the numbers that the article stated. I'm pretty certain many, if not most, of these marriages for the men come through agencies that kind of hunt for brides in places like China or Southeast Asia. I know that Southeast Asia is typically a common destination for Korean men that are looking to marry outside of their own culture. The article states that the drop in international marriages is due to issues caused by violence and domestic abuse because of poorly run marriage agencies, like I mentioned. Usually Korean women, not in all cases, but most of the time, they seek men from Western countries if they have chosen to break away from the Korean mold. But nonetheless, the article's content would insinuate that Korea is looking to marry internationally much less today. The third article talks about how there's been a large decrease in the number of Korean students looking to study abroad, a drop by 1/3 actually, and they claim that this is due to the vast improvements in Korea's English education system. Now, historically, Koreans would study abroad, and if you're from the United States or the UK or one of those countries like that, you can probably relate to this. They would study abroad in hopes of getting into a foreign college, which would in turn improve their employment opportunities. But with these vast improvements that they are talking about in their English education system, there's been a large decrease in the need for Koreans to study abroad. The thing about it is this: many universities here in Korea, I know, if not all, have ESL instructors now. And many of their classes are, not many of them, but they do have options where some of the classes are taught strictly in English. So do these articles suggest that Korea is becoming more closed off to the outside world? More xenophobic? Well, the first two articles definitely sound that way. My take on Korea's international interests is this. That first survey of 1,500 people, the xenophobic survey. Most of the surveys that you'll probably ever come across, if you look at the fine print, they typically contain participants that number in the hundreds, sometimes the low thousands, something like that. There's 50 million people in South Korea, so that's a very small random sample. As with other countries that have risen in prosperity, their need and desire to leave their own country decreases drastically. The same goes with Korea. Korea's recent prosperity has made it so more Koreans can find economic refuge, if you will, within their own borders now. Similarly, with studying abroad, not only for the reasons that I mentioned, but also Korean universities continue to improve their global reputation. So there's less of a desire to study at a university in America or the UK. In fact, I've met many people from various nations here in Korea that have come here to study at the universities. So if Koreans want to stay in Korea, they can do so more now than before and still keep a competitive advantage. In terms of xenophobia, there are a multitude of opinions on this out there, as I'm sure you may or may not have come across. This xenophobia thing, it exists in every nation on the planet, and that's a fact. Some take it to very violent extremes. It's part of America's fabric. In Korea, you're going to find people that have these tendencies too. Now, do I think that that is why Koreans do or do not want to live or study or marry internationally these days? Maybe. Maybe not.